there are 2 spots taken. Okay, we'll say one spot taken by an undefeated Big Ten champion, Ohio State or Michigan, and the other one taken by a 13-0 Florida State. Between the rest of these teams, who gets the last 2 spots? A 12-1 Oregon, who's a conference champ, a 12-0 Texas, who's a conference champ, or 12-1 Texas is conference champ, 12-1 Bama, who's a conference champ, a 12-1 Georgia non-champion, or a Washington 12-1 non-champion. Everybody has their own ideas. They wrote them down. We'll discuss. Reese, you're going to go first. What 2 teams get into the playoff in this scenario?
I'm going to take.
Why are you wrong?
I'm going to take Georgia, and I'm going to take Oregon.
Wrong again.
I'm taking Oregon State with the 1 seed, Florida State with the 2, Georgia with 3, and Oregon with 4. I was like mapping it out, and my argument for Oregon getting in is the opposite of why Georgia would get in, because I'm like, Oregon is going to go win a neutral site game, conference title, whatever. Yeah. So that knocks out Washington. But I'm like, wait, Georgia would then go lose, but that would be their one loss, I guess. But I don't know how the committee is going to keep out a team that just won back-to-back titles, and if their only loss is in that conference championship, I just don't know how you make that fight to keep them out. And yeah, Bama wins, but I think you still got to look back at that. Was it week 4 loss to Alabama, or the week 4 loss to Texas at home by double digits? Like, I still think that holds some weight to it.
That is radical thinking. I don't know how they would. You can't tell me that Oregon beats Washington and then.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like I was making that argument, and I was like, wait, I'm arguing why Washington would be out, but like it's the same thing that Georgia would get out. But I don't know. I just the back-to-back champions. I just don't know how you keep them.
Yeah, out. I hear that argument.
Also, bold.
That's what I got.
Bold strategy to assume that Florida State's gonna walk into Gainesville next week at night and get out 13-0. But
great point, Jake.
But for all honesty, I know what I want, but I know what I'm gonna get, and this is what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get Alabama and Georgia both in the.
No, you're not. Come on.
Yeah,
we cannot. We don't fall for
Alabama.
Alabama.
Alabama will take the number 1 spot because they beat presumably the number 1 team.
They're going to take the number 1 spot.
They're going to
jump Michigan. They're going to jump Florida State.
I don't know.
I would say they'll probably 2 at the most. 2 at the most. They're getting the 1 spot. They're definitely jumping Florida State, but I think they're getting the number 1 spot, especially. Okay, so
say they
keep it within 7.
Here's your argument.
They would reorganize that. Go ahead.
Yeah, they would make sure that Georgia and Alabama wouldn't play again. So that that one would make sense if Georgia was 4. Yeah.
The score of these games, they kind of matter too. I mean, I'm banking on that this game probably goes down to the wire. Maybe it's like 31-27 or something like that. Give me Michigan at the 1, Alabama at the 2, Florida State 3, Georgia 4.
So you're saying Ohio State in this scenario would get left out?
I think
with a loss to Michigan in the last week.
I
just want to make sure we're on the same page.
I think Michigan steamrolls Ohio State.
I don't know if that's as hot of a take as you saying both SEC teams are getting in now after, like that's. Oh, I mean, I could see it. That's the problem is I could see it.
I know what I want. What do I want? What do I want? I'd probably take Oregon in it because I think Oregon's a top 4 team in college football, but I know what I'm going to get. So
yeah, no, I'm sticking to my guns too. My college football playoff prediction is the only graphics I would say that's pretty much still alive. I think you can get easily Georgia and Bama in there, and then I'm taking Oregon. And even if Florida State wins it, this is not going to go over well with people. But even if Florida State wins out, I'm not putting them in over 12-1 conference champion Oregon.
All right, okay, this guy's smoking
crack.
They won every game.
What can't do
that. Now you're just
can't do that.
The ACC is weak. If we're putting the 4 best teams in with SEC bias,
they ain't
they're
Central Florida.
Parks, they would win. They would have a win over LSU and a win at Florida if they ran the table. And
LSU
they just ran through
1 win.
They won at Clemson.
At Clemson.
You're going to give me Florida as your second best win and tell me that they deserve.
No, you just said they ran through the ACC and they scheduled 2 SEC in their non-conference. Like, you can't keep them out if they run the table.
You can keep them out because it's Alabama and Georgia.
You would not. some people would probably get into your house and kill you if you were on the committee.
Good.
They would
Bring
try
it
to
in
find
here.
you.
Because I have Oregon in the college football playoff. They should make it.
That's
And
fine.
they're conference champion. I think Michigan gets in. I think Ohio State does get left out. I think this is the year that no matter what happens in the game, and they're going to win the Big Ten, that other one will get left out. And if it's Michigan, I think that even the decisions that have come down after the allegations and whatever you want to call it, it'll still come into play when the committee makes their decision, if that were to happen. So I think there's some crazy possibilities.
What if Texas runs the table? What's your guys' reasoning on to keep them out?
Well, I haven't given mine yet.
You have Texas
go
in
ahead.
it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I have
Wow,
Texas
so
and
do I.
Oregon in it. Texas and Oregon.
That's
Good
so
man.
that would
Never
give you
mind. Not a
Fun.
wow.
That's-
Good point.
That's fun. I like it.
I would
but
love it.
don't
I would
see it
love
happening.
that,
It's
Jordan.
fun.
guys.
I'm here for that, Jordan.
If I'm sitting here right now looking at the future and we predict the future, we have our little crystal ball and right, you get it. Predict the future. All this happens, right? Oregon, now what's the knock on them? The strength of schedule. But you know, we've also said how good the Pac-12 has been this year. Now, even with Wazoo kind of falling off, Pac-12 is still good. I still think UCLA is a good team, even though they lost in Arizona State and they've lost 2 straight. I think they're a good football team. I don't all of a sudden think that the SEC is super good because Alabama kind of figured it out against some, I mean,
We
like,
can go back.
if we're being honest with ourselves, like they're not, they're getting
SEC.
better, but that doesn't mean they're that much better than this Oregon team or this Texas team that went in there and beat them, right? Like, I think that Oregon team is legit on both sides of the football. You cannot tell me the same for Alabama, right? If you're doing eye test and you're putting Oregon next to Alabama, let's say it's Alabama against Texas, because they played, you kind of saw them play, granted, earlier in the year, right? And you have Oregon, probably best win right now. Oh, who is Oregon's best win?
Probably Utah, right?
That's the problem.
At
Utah or
Utah?
USC.
I mean, they
Like, it's-
housed Utah.
Either way, you give the best team. I think you have a better quarterback, a better offensive line, better playmakers on the edge. Defensively, they're pretty equal. I mean, that Oregon defense is good, and that Alabama defense we know is very good. But I just think eye test and you go win the Pac-12 and you do exactly what you're supposed to do. I get it. Now, an SEC champ to keep out would be psychotic in some ways. People would look at that and be like, oh, what's the SEC? It's big, bad. Is it? Because we were just talking 2 weeks ago how the conference is not where it's usually at. And I don't think it's that far above what the Pac-12 is. Texas, you get in because you beat the SEC champ in their home field. I don't care when it was. You have your quarterback back. And let's say you're rolling, because I think that defense is solid. And I think they have one of the better offenses in the country too. So that's what I see. And it probably won't happen that way, if I'm being quite honest with you. But
It's not.
I do.
There's
fun.
no way they're
Fun. I want to believe it.
unless somehow I would say maybe Georgia loses this weekend and then they beat Alabama. I mean, I just don't see.
I don't know. I think Georgia Tech gets them.
Yeah, to get bowl eligible. It's still alive, by the way.
man.
Big week for the Ramblin' Wreck.
You're not.
When you
keeping-
look at this, though, like, isn't this kind of weird that this is the one year where we've really had this crazy of a scenario? And like, it feels like right before the 12-team playoff shows up.
Yep.
We didn't have it last year or the year before or the year before. But of course, right when they change all the freaking rules and they bring in 12, it gets chaotic. So everybody's like, yeah, see, we were right. We were right. And then next year, there's going to be like 3 teams who deserve it.
Yeah, but it is cool though. Like,
JP,
think of all these teams being in. That's
Maybe,
cool.
yeah. Yes. How awesome is this going to be next year? Because also right now, like
Because it's
you're
not going to
debating,
happen next year.
you're debating 7 teams right now or whatever. You're throwing out a 1-loss Ohio State or Michigan right now. Next, so if you include them, you're having 8 teams right now that you should have going to be the champion. Like those, instead of us talking about these games, we can actually watch these games on a TV and bet on them.
You know who are
That's
also
gonna be
throwing
These
that?
teams are not going to be
That's gonna
as well rounded and as
awesome.
good next year.
You know who are
You
also
you know that?
throwing-
Did you know this was going to happen
I-
this year?
If you brought the data points in front of me and you looked at the last 5-6 years or whatever the playoff started in 2014, data points would show there's not this many teams usually. This is like 1 of 2 years. Maybe.
Let me tell you guys. You know who else is getting in the playoff? Louisville, Missouri, Tulane, Oregon State. And I like Oregon State.
Okay, Oregon State's good though.
Well, come
it's-
on.
yeah, chill.
All
I
4
mean,
of those
there's-
teams are good.
Okay, fine,
They're
Shaver.
good,
There's your
but
there's
the
your
pl-
one
it's
game.
the playoff. It's like when you get in the conversation as a playoff team, that like stamps for something. Like you're never like Iowa State, for instance, say they are atop of the Big 12 in 3 years. Can you really say that Iowa State is a playoff team? Like in that same conversation, it shouldn't be a thing. We don't recruit the same way. We're not on the same pay level as these teams. It should never be a even level playing
You
field
can
like this.
get yourself there. That's like
Well,
the
Iowa
thing is, like,
State-
once you get there, then you can
Iowa
say
State's
you
in a
are.
wanna
group
hear
of
a
5
comment on-
conference.
I don't want to hear it out of you.
Iowa State's in the
All you-
newest group
dude.
of 5 conference.
I don't know why he's complaining so much. All you need to do is go outside and start drilling until you find oil and you have oil money, and then you can give all this money to the university.
Don't say Tulane either. Like it's not a team that beat USC in their game last year. I mean, Tulane. You never know. Those are the games that all of a sudden that happens, and you have madness.
Shave's giving
I
that
can't
look
compare
like
to
he did
USC.
when he was talking
What's
about
Georgia
Iowa
doing?
State
USC?
beating Ohio.
What's Georgia doing to USC last year? I mean, they scored
God.
63 on TCU. Are they getting to 100?
Dude,
Are they
nobody's
putting 100
beating
on
No,
USC?
but they
That's
could.
an
They
outlier.
could if they wanted to.
And TCU was better than USC last year.
That's my point.
JP, something that just came to mind. You know what? I think Oregon actually gets more credit this week for beating Texas Tech on the road after they beat Kansas too. So that's another one. Point Oregon towards you and me.
Yeah,
I feel like
they're
they get more credit
They're
after
grinding out games on the road. Sometimes you got to survive, so we can't then look back and be like, "Oh, well, they only beat them by whatever. Oh, that's their
Yeah.
best win." Well, you told them to survive, and you told them to go win these football games, and they did, right?
Tyler
So
Shuck was
there's a
also
little give and
playing.
take. What'd you
Yeah,
say?
Tyler Shuck was also playing in that game.
Fact. That's a fact. It was also early, and they had Oregon just come off of a gritty 1-2, and Texas Tech came off a gritty one at home for the first time. I mean, again, you just got to survive sometimes, and we can't hold it against every team ever. We might have to write that down so we can get a graphic out there who we think in this scenario gets out there. I think it'd be interesting to put that out there and see who agrees with what, because I think we had pretty
No
much
graphic.
4
This
different
whole
answers.
clip will be out on YouTube.
Perfect.
One-
Perfect. Hey, let's jump.
One last
What'd you say,
thing,
Reese?
JP. One last thing. Would it not be electric to watch Texas go to Oregon and play in a college football playoff game? Would that not be?
Is that
fun
how
as
it's
shit to
lined
watch?
up?
You know what you could do with
Well,
that,
I have no
Reese? You know
idea.
what
I'm just saying. I'm making these up as it
Reese,
go. I'm just saying,
Reese.
like, how fun would that be to
Reese.
watch?
You know what you could do with that? You could take
What?
the top 6, or you could take the top 8, not the top fucking 12.
I think 6 or 8 is a better number, Jacob. But I'm saying that's what they gave us. But you're still going to get these games next year if you do fucking 8 or 6.
If
these
that
games
were to
are
happen,
unbelievable.
Reese, if that were to happen, I really hope the Texas fans that travel to Eugene, I hope that Oregon is really competitive. That way, Texas fans can experience their atmosphere. Fuck you, Jake. That was the worst comment ever. They want to kick their ass. That's great football. I'm excited for it. You should be excited for it, especially after this. I mean, this
You guys
is,
want to know what the matchups would be?
yes.
Yeah, I just
Might as
saw
well give it to us.
Okay. Obviously 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 Georgia, 2 Ohio State, 3 Florida State, 4 Michigan. Wait, this is no way this
Yep.
is right. Is
I
it?
got you, Jordan.
is
It's
right?
right here. I got one for week 12. Here's the 4. Georgia is the 1, Michigan's the 2, Texas
Yeah, why
is
does
the
this
3,
whole rainbow?
Florida State is the 4. Those are the 4 teams that get the bye. For your 8 versus 9, we have Alabama hosting Louisville. Race to see if Alabama can get to 70 points. Awesome.
Okay.
For
There's
another
one.
game,
You
we
think?
have-
Whoa. They're not
Come
putting
on.
up 70 on Louisville. I'm sorry.
sorry,
They
they're
should put
getting-
up 70 on anybody.
Sorry, it's 45-0. Thanks. Talk to you later. The next game, you have Ohio State hosting Tulane, which I don't love Ohio State, but they're still probably winning by 14, 20 points. That line comes out at least like 12, 14. I don't even know.
Probably.
You kind of need. Washington hosts Missouri. That is one team
Fun
that
game.
I think Missouri could go in
Fun
there.
game.
You're falling into the SEC homerism, Reese, when we let 5
No,
SEC
I'm
teams in.
just saying a fun game to watch. I don't give a shit about homerism. I'm saying
All right.
that game is on right now. You don't want to watch that for a New Year's Six bowl.
It's a good one. And then 6 and 11 is the Civil War again. They would be playing back to back. Oregon State. So
I hate the
game.
back-to-back thing, by the way. Hate it. But it would matter because Oregon State would need to win
Fun
to stay in
game.
it.
yeah, Oregon State wouldn't technically even be in this if Oregon
They would
beat-
have to win.
so
Yeah, they have to win next
You'd
week.
probably think like Oklahoma would probably yeah, maybe Oklahoma would be in that spot. Just trying to think of like who would, because Oklahoma State would get to the title game and I don't know, have one loss. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
the team I think. It's the team I thought of, but yeah, that would be first round if it
Interesting.
starts today. Also, I don't need these every week. I'm adding you on 3. I don't need it every single
They've been
week.
doing it since week 3. What are we talking
Yeah,
about? Like,
that's
it's not like
what
they
I'm
don't put it out every week. Hey, just let them be them, Schaefer, and we'll be us. They be them, we'll be us, right? They hate us
But
because
they
they hate
can't.
us.
What we
Here's,
can
here's,
control.
here's my point. Here's my point I just made. So I talked about like Oregon State wouldn't be the 11. So like when they do these projections, literally a year from now, they're gonna have to decide like, okay, who's winning between Oregon and Oregon State, because somebody who loses that football game probably won't get into the 12 team. Does that make sense? So they
Yes,
can't
it
just
makes
go off
sense.
like the actual rankings every single week. They have to make projections on like who is probably going to run the table and win these football games the last 2 or 3 weeks of the year.
There's gonna be a lot of average sports writers out there making a lot of content out of it.
Oh,
That's all
dude.
I gotta say. It's gonna be clickbait as shit. Somebody's gonna have like somebody ranked outside the top 25. Like, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
they'll get in, even with 2
They'll run
losses.
the
I
table
think
and
they'll
get in.
12.
Oh, yeah. It's gonna be.
Yeah. Hey, let's jump into our previews though, because we have 4 games that we really want to touch on. Big games for